At the age of 83, Paul Simon, one of the greatest songwriters of all time, surprised the world by revealing the names of 6 women in rock music who shaped his journey, inspired his creativity, and earned his deep respect. These women are not just famous singers. They are icons who touched something personal in Paul. This story takes you inside his mind and heart, revealing how these incredible women left their mark on a legend. Paul Simon has worked with many artists in his long career, but when he speaks about Joni Mitchell, there's a special warmth in his voice. He once said, "Her songs were like paintings. She didn't just sing, she painted emotions." Back in the 1970s, when both were rising stars, Simon often found himself listening to her albums alone in the dark, trying to figure out how she could fit so much emotion into just a few chords and words. Joni was never just another folk artist to him. He admired how she wrote from her soul. Blue, her most famous album, especially touched Paul. He felt that she wasn't writing songs, she was telling secrets. That honesty inspired him to dig deeper into his own writing. Although their musical paths didn't often cross directly, Simon followed her career closely. He even admitted that Joni's lyrics pushed him to become more fearless in his own storytelling. Her ability to write songs that spoke about love, heartbreak, and confusion without sounding dramatic amazed him. What also drew Paul to Joni was her bravery. At a time when women in rock were expected to follow certain rules, Joni broke them. She wrote about what she wanted, dressed how she wanted, and played jazz when everyone else expected folk. Paul respected that freedom and once said, "She made her own map. She didn't follow anyone else's road." While Joni Mitchell moved Paul with soft emotions, Janis Joplin hit him like a storm. She was wild, raw, and completely untamed, and Paul Simon loved every second of it. He described Janis as a hurricane in high heels, a woman who could walk into a room and make the air feel electric. Paul first saw Janis perform live in the late 60s. She wasn't just singing, she was screaming pain, love, and desire. That kind of energy was rare, and Paul instantly knew she was different. She gave everything on stage. There was no filter, no safety net, he once said. What Paul admired most was Janis's honesty. She didn't try to be perfect. Her voice cracked. Her performances were messy. But that was what made them so real. She showed the world that rock didn't have to be polished. It could be raw and human. Paul and Janis didn't get to collaborate, but they met a few times at music festivals and parties. Paul always said that Janis had this strange power over people. She could make you feel something just by looking at you. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She just was. That kind of authenticity inspired Paul to be bolder in his own performances. Tina Turner wasn't just a rock star. She was a fighter, a survivor, and a symbol of strength. For Paul Simon, she represented what it meant to rise above pain and still keep your fire burning. He called her a voice of survival wrapped in thunder. Paul always admired how Tina reinvented herself. From her days with Ike Turner to her solo success in the 1980s, she never gave up. She fought through abuse, rejection, and failure. And when the world counted her out, she came back stronger. That kind of strength deeply inspired Paul. He watched her transformation with awe. Tina didn't just return, she exploded back onto the scene. Her album Private Dancer showed Paul a new way to approach music, with passion, pain, and purpose. He loved how she blended rock with soul, and her voice, raspy, full of fire, reminded him that music had to be felt. When Paul Simon talks about Patti Smith, his eyes light up with curiosity. She's not like the others. Patti was raw, poetic, and a little dangerous. That edge was what drew Paul in. He once described her as the poet of punk, someone who turned chaos into art. Patti Smith's music came at a time when rock needed a new voice, something real, something bold. Paul was already a legend by the time Patti started making waves, but he noticed her immediately. Her first album, Horses, caught him off guard. It was loud, gritty, and full of truth, and Paul respected that deeply. What really impressed him was Patti's mind. She wasn't just writing songs, she was writing messages. Her lyrics were filled with poetry, politics, and rebellion. She wasn't afraid to say what she believed. Paul admired that courage, especially at a time when women were often told to stay quiet. Paul Simon couldn't pick just one for the final spot. When asked, he smiled and said, "It's a tie." On one hand, there was Stevie Nicks, mystical, emotional, and always wrapped in mystery. On the other, Bonnie Raitt, bluesy, grounded, and soulful. Both women touched Paul in different ways. Stevie Nicks, with her haunting voice and poetic lyrics, reminded Paul of dreams. He admired how she turned heartbreak into beauty. Songs like Landslide and Dreams made Paul stop in his tracks. He felt that Stevie sang from a place between the real world and the spiritual. That mix of truth and magic spoke to Paul's own love of storytelling.